What is up, everyone? This is BigPowner, and I'm going to be giving you guys some really useful information. This is information that will help a lot of players. This will pretty much help all players besides like really well informed players. So if you don't consider yourself like an expert at crafting and items and stuff like this is probably a good video for you. Um, if you do consider yourself an expert, then maybe you already know all this, and maybe this video is a waste of your time. Because simple fact, to some people this will be common knowledge, but to a lot of people it won't be. What am I talking about? Choosing item types and what actually makes an item best. Because I'm gonna give examples to explain this. If I were to go out and I'm gonna use my weapon, and I have created another weapon based on the best version of another item base type on the market. What is it that logically a player is going to do when they're looking for an upgrade to their item? They're going to search by the DPS of that weapon. Is picking the highest DPS always going to result in a better weapon? The short answer is no, but I'm going to give you an example. We're going to use my weapon, and then we are going to use the best Harbinger bow on the market. And I'm picking the Harbinger bow because it is probably the second most popular base, and there's a reason why the Thicket bow and the Harbinger bow are the most popular. First of all, the Harbinger bow is popular because it can get really high DPS, displayed DPS, and it has an implicit modifier that adds 30 to 50 increased critical strike chance. So, if you were to basically look at my Thicket bow and the best Harbinger bow on the market, and you were to look at them side by side, you would be like, the Harbinger bow has close to 100 higher displayed DPS, and it's got an implicit modifier that is 50% increased critical strike chance. Assuming that they were both for sale for the same price, which one would you buy? Most likely the Harbinger bow. Would it really be the best item? So what I've done is I have taken and copied the tiers, the stats of the best Harbinger bow on the market into Path of Building. And we're going to find out. I want to say this. If you don't have Path of Building, it is the third most useful item program or tool for Path of Exile. And if you don't have it yet, you need to get it. Am I going to teach you how to use it? No. Why didn't I teach you guys how to use Loot Filter, PoE Trade Macro, and why am I not going to teach you how to use Path of Building? Because the creators of those things give good information on how to use them, and I ain't here to create content on stuff that there's already good information on how to use it. Quite frankly, it's a waste of my time. There's no reason for me to be doing that. That's not what I'm here for. I ain't here to just create shit to create shit. um, so I've taken all the stats of the best Harbinger bow on the market. I haven't just done that. To give it, hypothetically, if I were to buy the item, I could divine it to perfect. Realistically, could I actually do that? No. Quite frankly, realistically, you look at my bow, I spent like 20 exalts just to get my my crafted on modifiers to be the rolls that they are, which I'm 9% off on the increased physical, and 1% off on the critical strike chance, and 1 off on the quality. And that's like 5 tries. And I'll explain to you why I would spend so much doing that. Continuing on, that's going to be another part of it, because we're going to talk about crafting after I explain this first scenario to you. So to give this bow the absolute best chances of increasing my damage by the most if I bought it, hypothetically, I could take and divine it till all of them, all of the stats are perfect. Realistically, is that going to happen? No, but I've done it anyways to give it, what is the absolute most this bow could increase my damage by? It's over 100 DPS higher than my weapon now. Essentially, it's a little would be a little bit over 100 DPS higher on the display DPS. So that's about 18% higher damage than my weapon on the displayed DPS. So just thinking about it, I would expect I buy the bow, I put it on, and I'm going to have 18% higher damage per second. Is that what happens? No. What happens when I do put it on? How much of an increase do I get? I don't get an increase. I get a decrease. Why? There's a lot more to think about than just the display DPS of a weapon. Why is it that the thicket bow, a bow that is ranked as like, I don't know, like 10th highest ranked bow, why is it the most popular? Why is it that when you see people that have invested a ton of currency on their builds, why is it that they're using the thicket bow? It's because of its base attack speed, to put it really simple. It's a combination of its stats, but simply put, it has the highest base attack speed of any bow in the game. Why is this important? If we look at the Harbinger bow and we look at the thicket bow, base attack speed on the thicket bow is 1.5 attacks per second. Base attack speed on the Harbinger is 1.2 attacks per second. The bows by themselves have a DPS number, and that's what you see when you're searching on like the trade network, or when you get information on it by using your trade macro and you click on it. That information that's given, the DPS calculation, that's based on the bow by itself, or the whatever weapon. We're using bows as an example, but this stays true for any weapon. But you have to think about it like this. When I put the bow into my build, is the only thing that's giving me damage that bow? No. It's a combination of all of the stuff in our trees. It's a combination of all of our gear, all of our jewels, everything. What is it that we do with the direction of our build? We build a combination that gives us two main things: damage and defenses. I mean, that's basically the two categories. Some form of damage, whatever it be, and a combination of some type of defenses, whatever that combination we choose to be. Life, energy shield, armor, evasion, whatever you choose. It's basically broken down to damage and defenses. So, if we add damage to a 1.2 attack speed, and we add damage to a 1.5 attack speed, which one is going to add more damage? Well, if we add 100 damage to 1.2 attack speed, that would give us 120 damage per second that's been added. If we add 100 damage to a 1.5 attack speed, what is it we get? We get 150 damage per second. Are these the only factors that we look at when we are trying to determine what is actually best? No, there are a ton of factors. However, this was an example just so that you could get an idea of why something with such a higher DPS would actually give me less damage. But you don't have to know everything about what's going to be best, because I just told you how you can find out what's going to be best without buying the item, without crafting the item. All you have to do, if you're going to be making a big purchase, is take and craft the item. How do we do this? We just go into Path of Building. I'm not going to explain how to download Path of Building and put in all that stuff. Go watch the tutorial. But once you're in it, you go to items, you scroll all the way to the right, create new item, copy in the stats, create item, and put it in your build and see what it actually does. If I had bought that bow expecting an 18% increase to my damage, and I spent a bunch of currency on it, do you think I would have been disappointed? Extremely. I would have been really, 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 really disappointed. And now you won't now you will be able to avoid that. Have I had this happen to me? Yes, when I was a new player, I looked at the damage and I was like, that looks sweet. I'm gonna get so much damage from this, and I bought the item and I was like, what the heck? Why am I getting no damage? So this will prevent that. Taking it a step further. Crafting. I'm just using this as an example because this is a three stat item. I just happen to have a Harbinger bow. So imagine I get 3 stats, and I like the 3 stats. I mean, obviously I've got like fire resistance on this. Is not, something where I'm thinking, oh man, this is amazing. Tier 5 dual mod and tier 6 resistance. I want to multi-mod this. But it's just pretend like there's some other stats that would look like they're good. And I'm expecting for this bow to be really good when I throw on my crafted multiple modifiers and add 2 more crafts to it. Or use one of the new methods, which I couldn't do on this one because, I mean, if it was this actual one, because it already has an influence on it, so we couldn't slam it with a new Exalted Orb. But you can also pretend that, it's a gray one. There's a bunch of hypothetical situations here. Whatever your hypothetical or actual situation is in the future, how can we prevent investing more in the item and winding up with a result that we're not happy with? What I can do right now at this point is I can take the stats that I do have on the item, I can put them in to create an item, and then what is it I can do? I can add any hypothetical stats to it to find out what the item is going to create. And if I'm happy with that, for instance, we'll use the crafted multiple modifiers. With the crafted multiple modifiers, I know I can guarantee adding 2 stats. So if I think that this item is going to be really good if I add 2 stats to it, I can know exactly what I'm going to get by taking these stats, putting them into it, and then going and choosing the 2 crafted multiple modifiers that I want, and crafting those on in path of building, and then putting the item on my build. And then I'm able to see exactly what it will do. And then I can decide before I spend my currency if that's something I want to use. Why would this also be a good thing? Maybe you don't know what multiple modifier crafts are the best. What can this also prevent? Say, for instance, I'm not completely sure what's best. So I put on my crafted multiple modifiers and I throw on 2 stats. And, I'm happy with the item. But then what happens? I get a new craft. Or, someone tells me, why do you have that on there? It would be better with this. And then what do you have to do? You have to wipe the item clean. Why did it cost me, going back to this, why did it cost me 20 exalts to roll this? Because every single time I want to try to get higher stats on my crafted modifiers using a crafted multiple modifiers, I have to remove those. The only other choice is for me to use a divine orb. But what's up with my stats that are already on there? I already got all the previous stats to near perfect, which how hard would it be for me to try and get 43 of 43 on the low end of physical, 77 out of top 78, 19 out of 3 range on the attack speed, and get all good rolls on my crafted modifiers? How hard do you think that is going to be? It's basically going to be nearly impossible. So you have to consider things like that. And in this hypothetical situation, if I put something bad on there and I find out that something else is a lot better, I'm going to have to remove all that stuff. And if you're like me, when I was a new player, you don't have as much currency as I have now. So having to remove a 2 exalt craft, which, say you did these three modifiers, that's 4 exalts. Having to wipe that off to make your weapon a little bit better can be, pretty disappointing. Or it might be something that you just don't do at all. You're just disappointed because you find out for the same price you could have had a better item. Well, you can avoid that by, if you don't know, craft the item in path of building and find out for sure what is going to be best. That's it. Um, if I missed something, or if you still have questions, leave comments. Um, this I used bows as an example, but this holds true for every single type of weapon. Obviously, I'm not going to do a specific video just like this and do foils. This is why jeweled foil is the best, and this is why the Imperial Claw is the best, and this is why I'm not going to do that. You have the way to find out what's best, and on an item to item base. Are there Harbinger bows that are going to actually wind up being better than Thicket bows? Of course, because you could have one that's just a way better quality Harbinger bow, and on your build, it'll give you a better DPS than the Thicket bow, and you might be able to get it for a lot less because it's a less desirable bow. Um, but in all those specific cases, you're going to be able to know exactly, so you don't buy something that's a disappointment. You don't buy something that you think is going to be a big upgrade and it winds up being a downgrade. That's why I released this video. The other reason is you're going to be able to pick the best type base, and you're going to understand when you do decide to craft, why is it that I am going to get this base instead of this other one? Well, you can do a hypothetical craft. If I take and use a jeweled foil versus a vol foil, or any other one with the same stats, which one's going to give me a better weapon on my build? Hopefully this video is helpful. If you guys have questions, please feel free to ask. I also want to give thanks for the people who have been giving helpful suggestions, constructive criticism. I also want to give out a thanks for the people who have been taking the time to add additions to videos. For some reason, I'm really bad at YouTube. I just figured out that there was like a studio area where I could see unread comments. Like, I'm still learning. I'm a noob at YouTube. Um, but I have limited time, and there were a couple people that have taken time to like write out stuff for videos, and I've added those in the description section and given them credit for their contribution, because I do appreciate it a lot. I put a lot of time into these videos, and some of the stuff, just quite frankly, I can't do everything because it is extremely time consuming. I'm trying to do the stuff that is I think will be the most helpful with the time that I do have. So when people take the time to add an addition to the video to make it better, I really appreciate that, and I will give you credit. If you do something like that and you don't want credit, specifically say it. Otherwise, I will give you credit. I don't want to be like embarrassing someone or putting someone on blast or something like that. I just want to give credit where it's deserved. People deserve credit when they put good effort into something. Anyways, thanks for watching. I hope this video has been helpful. Peace.